Alright, this was the first game of Los Ratones in MMA Masters playoffs, and I'll be looking at the mid matchup in this game in particular. We have two ex-LEC mid laners laning into each other in Ryze versus Orianna matchup. In this laning phase, Ryze needs to play for an advantage, in the early portions of it at least. And the way he plays for an advantage is by making sure that he's trading his mana pool for Orianna's HP. And by that, what I'm trying to say is that he's supposed to be trading all the time. Whenever Orianna's Q goes on cooldown, he should be trading. All of his wave management needs to be both giving him the ability to take extended exchanges, meaning that the wave should be as close to the middle of the lane as possible, or if Orianna is inting, then maybe you can let the wave push into you, and that's also fine. And then, at the same time, you want to make sure that by the time your mana starts running out, you are ready to reset. And so the way I see this laning phase at like a higher level is the Ryze player is first of all heavy trading on the first wave. The second wave meets around here, around this area. Ryze is playing in front of it as he hits level 2 advantage, and he's forcing exchanges onto Orianna. Then, as he crashes the second wave, and the third wave meets close to the middle of the lane, he is looking for his final exchanges. Hopefully, by that point, Orianna will be below half of her HP. Then, Ryze will hard push the third wave, he will take a reset, he will come back with a tier, and Orianna will be forced to take a reset as well, because she will be too low HP to continue laning without just getting solo killed on the fourth wave. And so, Ryze is back with a tier, Orianna is back at best with an amplifying tome, and then Ryze can continue to exert some pressure until about level 6-7 is where Orianna typically can look to start taking over. And more specifically, her second, third-ish reset is where Orianna will start to take over the laning phase. But early game is all about Ryze and making sure that you balance out between taking a lot of exchanges and making sure that your wave is not putting you behind because of your mana pool. Given that, let's see exactly how both of these mid laners are gonna play this out. And there is already a couple of problems. So first of all, Ryze is not taking position mid. If you've watched my previous videos, you know what a position is, but I will repeat myself because why not? A position is when you start on your opponent's side of the lane. It's very, very common at a higher level. The reason mid laners do this is because first of all, it allows you to set up your last hits faster, which is typically just a net positive. In some circumstances, it can be very useful to get position because you want to manipulate the wave level 1. So you might want to pull it down, you might want to pull it up, and it will have slight differences on how exactly your opponent is playing around it. I'm not gonna go into the details of it in this VOD because I think there is a lot more different ideas that are more surface level, that are more worth discussing than wave manipulation. But that's definitely something to consider. And then the third reason why you wanna pull the wave is because it often makes your opponent take exchanges into you. So for instance, if Ryze were to step up like that, which is what he should be doing, and then let's say Orianna throws her Q and clicks back, then you're happy because her Q is on cooldown by the time the first wave comes. So we can maybe force exchanges right away as the first wave comes, and Orianna cannot walk up to it. That could be good. Or let's say that she goes in and she trades Q and auto attacks with you. Then you're insanely happy because then you're trading your HP somewhat evenly. But once again, it benefits you more in the end because you're the one that needs to reset to some extent after the third wave or the fourth wave because of your mana restraints. Orianna, although she's also a heavy mana using champion, she's not even remotely close to wasting mana as much as Ryze does in his laning phase. So it's still good to take those exchanges. Ryze is not doing it. So it's already a problem. And then we have a really good Q usage from Nemesis. And the reason why it's good is because as Orianna, and it happens into a lot of different laning phases, including Ryze, where depending on when you cast your Q, you will either end up in a good position or in a really, really bad one. So in this case, casting your Q before the minions even meet in the middle of the lane is really good because you won't need your Q for the next 6 seconds. And if Ryze looks to step up and trade with his E on your Q cooldown, which is what he should be doing, then you're happy because you can just click back. You're not losing anything. None of these minions will die in the middle of the lane. This is really good Q usage by Nemesis. Ryze, either way, even though Orianna likely won't lose anything out of it, should be stepping up and trading. He should look to force exchanges onto her. As you can see, he is not exactly doing it. He's not even trying to threaten it. And don't get me wrong, Orianna should never allow for it. Orianna should just click back and constantly space around Ryze. But this doesn't change the fact that Ryze should be at least trying to apply this tension. Because it's better, always, and that's one thing that a lot of European mid laners and laners in general do not understand, I think, is that applying tension, even of itself, is already a huge fucking boost for your laning phase capabilities. Because a lot of players will make a mistake, and they will not space properly around Ryze clicking forward here. Trust me, there's a decent likelihood that Nemesis wouldn't space around them. Very decent likelihood, because you will see further in this VOD that he failed a lot of times to space properly around Ryze E range. So it's not like totally fucking crazy to think about, which is why once again Vetheo is just being AFK for now. On the other hand, Nemesis should be running out of the range of his Q and picking it up again. And the reason for that is because your Q is not in a perfect position. So like perfect position for a Q is to be middle of the lane, somewhere around here, probably is the best position. But even then you could argue that Ryze could reposition all the way here, and it's not amazing. You'd rather have your Q on top of yourself. So as a general rule of hand, if you have the ability to pick up your Q without losing too much in exchange, you should probably do it. It's probably gonna be better than leaving it in this spot, for instance, which is just not as good. Because any better Ryze players should be now moving like that, play on this side, and then click forward and look for exchanges. And by doing so, if you try and throw your Q across the entire width like that, you have a very decent likelihood of missing it as Orianna. Whereas if you had it on top of yourself, and you played here, let's say, as Ryze is looking to step up, you're just gonna have a much easier time landing it, because it's gonna have to fly a lesser distance. None of the things that I've said are happening. Instead, we have a lot of weird stuff that I wouldn't normally expect from this laning phase. One of them is Ryze randomly hitting the wave. So like here we have 2 auto attacks on this melee minion, which is already quite a lot, given that he doesn't even get to see what the aggro exactly is. Your auto attacks onto the melee minions, given that you're trying to set them up instead of hard pushing, which is what he should be doing. If you're just looking to set up your minions, you're never supposed to be hitting these minions preemptively. You want to see first what the aggro exactly is, because you have still no idea what the aggro is. Only now you know. Now you only know that this minion will likely die first and then this is gonna be second. But these minions are aggroing onto this twice, and then you have only 2 melees aggroing onto this one. And so for instance, now what I would do with this information if I was Ryze is I would probably auto-attack this minion once and this minion 0 times. That's what I would do. But it doesn't seem like that's what he is doing, which is just weird. And then he continues to auto-attack like these minions. And then he E's the back minion instead of using his E forward to trade onto Orianna. There's like a lot of inaccuracies. This is just random. Even if his approach was to hard push the first wave, let's assume that. Even then he's inting because he's not consistent with it. If he was trying to hard push the first wave, he would be spam using E of cooldown. That's not what he's doing. He's holding his E. It doesn't make any sense. Nemesis is playing correctly so far. Everything Nemesis is doing is correct. Aside from this Q usage. This Q usage should get him banned. Okay? I don't know why this Q was used like that. What he should have done instead is just hold this Q. Just hold it. Or pick it up. Because at this point, Ryze is mispositioning. Ryze should be positioning here so that he's always within the range of potentially hitting Orianna and trading with her. And then Orianna should be feeling uncomfortable during all of this. Why should she be feeling uncomfortable? Because if she continues to play in this position as Ryze is here, when her ball is here, then if Ryze chooses to pull the trigger at some point, she might just end up taking a net negative exchange. Especially if we assume that she is gonna have to locked onto an auto attack animation on any of those minions. So let's assume that she's overstepping here. As Ryze is here, it could be quite tough. All this to say that Ryze is mispositioning, Ryze is not looking to take exchanges still. You could also make an argument that he should be playing over to this side because he doesn't want to necessarily be standing across from Orianna, but I would probably disagree with that idea in this case. And that's because Orianna doesn't necessarily benefit so much from being in this particular positioning relative to Ryze. Why is that? It's because whenever your positioning looks like this, then your opponent on the red side will struggle because of this wall right here. Because whenever he looks to click forward and you look to close distance, he cannot create distance like that. He will always create distance like this, which in turn will mean that he will be forced into taking an exchange onto you. Ryze doesn't abuse that, as you can see with his movement, even though he should be clicking forward here and taking this exchange. Even if this exchange is net negative, which it probably is because of these range minions, he should still go for it. Because it's at least an exchange. So let's say that he trades this much HP for this much HP. This is still an okay-ish exchange to take. Because your HP is not that valuable. Your mana is valuable. And you're willing to exchange it for her HP. Even if it's not exactly an even exchange. Which in this case, it might be. If she misses her Q. Which is a decent likelihood for that happening. Now here, Orianna is just mispositioning. Nemesis should never be stepping up. Because this exchange is just net negative for him. And Ryze punishes him perfectly. Even if Orianna gets to land this last auto attack, this exchange would still be losing for her. So this was all amazing by Ryze until now. Because now is where he's choosing to click back in. And that I don't love so much. It's not terrible by any means, because it's still somewhat an even exchange. But at the same time, if you can take an exchange that is net positive and you turn it into a net negative just because you want to trade more, I don't know to what extent I love that. I don't hate it, what Vetheo is doing by re-engaging here. Because this exchange, once again, is not horrible in terms of the theory of the laning phase, but it's definitely not good on like a practical basis, where you're trading HP unevenly when you don't have to. So I don't know how to feel about it. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. That's what I'm gonna say about it. And so now you can see the problem with hard pushing the first wave, where now the second wave is gonna meet almost right in front of Orianna's turret, which in turn means that Ryze can almost never take any extended exchanges, which is absolutely terrible for him, because that's the main way through which he's supposed to play for an advantage. And in turn it also means that Orianna gets to survive the laning phase for potentially a way longer period of time than she normally would be able to. Now Ryze is about to hit level 2 advantage. He's not exactly positioning himself properly around it. He should be standing probably a little bit closer to this side as he's hitting it, but instead he's choosing to stand in the way of minions. I don't know if he's trying to bait out a Q through these minions, but it doesn't make any sense to me why he continues to position this spot. Like, he should be either here or here. Either one is good, but positioning 1000 units away from Orianna is just not optimal as you hit level 2 advantage. It doesn't make any sense. Because, like, even now, she's not supposed to be able to last hit this minion. Orianna didn't have to cast her Q, which is just a stupid error by Nemesis. I think he's just stressing out because this is the first game. But she should not be able to auto-attack last hit this minion for free. The Ryze should be positioning appropriately around it. Once again, either here or here. It doesn't really matter. I just want you to be forward as you're level 2 and Orianna has to last hit minions. But you're not forward. You're clicking back. You're being a cuck. Now there is good positioning. If I want to be pedantic, you could be a little bit further up here, just because by doing so you will make it so that you're further away from her Q recast, and on top of that she's not able to throw her Q through both you and the wave, which can be a lot better for her, but that's a minor error. I like the fact that he's at least looking to click forward. But this is bad, right? Like this, he's clicking too far back at this point. He should never be clicking back on this. Minion dying. You want to stand here and you want her to be forced into either queuing the wave, in which case you can probably hit her with E and auto attack, or EW, depending on if you want Q second or W. Probably W is better in this case, given that he doesn't have to push the wave yet, and he wants to focus primarily on exchanges, and just going to take more positive exchanges if you go W. But either one is fine. I just want him to click forward on this minion last hit, because this is the same mistake that he made previously. He did the same thing here. Not on this one is whatever, but this one. These two minions. He should be clicking forward on this level 2 and playing on this minion. He's refusing to do it. Same applies to this minion. He should be in front of Orianna on this. And then as we move all the way here, he makes the same mistake. This is like a repeating error that just better players wouldn't make. And therefore they would be able to play more for an advantage in this laning phase. And by the way, also, the better players would never end up in a situation where the second wave meets in this spot. This is like abysmal, this is disgusting. But if you were to put any better mid laner in this situation, he would play forward on those last hits, not back. EQing the wave is fine. What's not fine is overstaying under this mid turret as Ryze. I just don't get it at all. What he should be doing is warding on this timer, because you're just not going to have a better ward timer than this. And your ability to poke Orianna is negative under this turret. Even though it might seem like Orianna is getting poked and it actually worked, it's only because Nemesis is retarded, like straight up. So if you look at his last hits, he can auto-attack this minion, he's gonna last hit it, but once again, he's just stressing out because the first game. And then what he would have done, if he had his Q, then he would have used his Q on these minions and last hit both of them. And he obviously would have last hit that one as well. So, he just choked. And then he went E second and then walked into Ryze. This should be game losing. Not game losing, lane losing. Normally. So now we have the third wave. Orianna is below half of her HP. What should happen, and what would have had happened if this was a higher level game, is Ryze would keep the wave more or less in this position. He would just allow the wave to meet more or less in the neutral. And then he would play in front of the wave and trade onto Orianna. That's it. That's the idea. That's what should happen. Let's see what Ryze does instead. And also, once again, there's a lot of different ideas regarding wave pulling here. But I don't want to discuss that so much. I don't feel like it's that relevant. And what's relevant, though, is what Ryze is doing. So Ryze is hard hitting this first minion for no reason, just so we're on the same page. He should not be touching it at all. What he should be doing is playing here. And then Orianna should be here. And then at some point you just pull the trigger and run this way. Or we can also play from this side and make Orianna play here. But it's a little bit worse because of the way the wave is positioned, if that makes sense. Orianna will have a little bit of an easier time creating distance and closing distance from this position than she will have from like this position. But it's a small difference. Either one is good. Play here or here. Whatever one you want. But he won't do either one of those. He's continuing to play in the middle of his lane. About 1000 units away from Orianna. And if your argument is that he's scared of Vi because this is a Vi timer, which is true, then why the fuck he didn't ward previously on the second wave crash and instead he overstayed under the turret? If you're scared of Vi on the third wave, why are you not warding after the second? Exactly. Doesn't make any sense. So it's not an excuse. He's just hinting. Usually playing in front of the wave and trading onto Orianna. And it seems like he's somewhat looking for it, but he doesn't actually commit to any of those step-ups. Even though he knows that Orianna has E right now, which is like one of the worst abilities she can probably go second in this laning phase when it comes to exchanges. She cannot ever take a positive exchange onto Ryze right now. But because Ryze is playing like a loser, there's nothing that can happen. Orianna is totally fine. Like he E's and then clicks back. Orianna was able to hit level 3 advantage. Ryze is still continuing to refuse to close distance, even though he can. And in this case, Orianna doesn't have to respect it because she's not gonna lose anything, and that's what Nemesis is doing. So goodbye him. And then we have the 4th wave meet near Orianna's turret again. So Orianna once again is not under any real threat, assuming that she plays well. The Q usage here, was it good? No, it wasn't good. He should have waited. Oh yeah, this. Oh my god. When I was first watching this, I was so triggered when I saw this. Because this is the first time this game where Vetheo is actually like using his brain. So he saw Orianna waste her Q on this minion. Uses it to step up on the last hit. For the first time this game, he has done this. It seems like he's about to win the lane. He is, and you think he's about to follow up with W and the rest of his skill rotation. But bro E's and then clicks back right away, right after. It wasn't even like a consideration for him to follow up with W, even though this exchange is almost certainly laning phase winning. It's insane. It's crazy. Actually crazy. And then he continues to be a pussy after that. Like he clicks back and continues to play 1000 units away from Orianna, even though he should be all the way here. It's crazy. It's insane. It's insane. Also, I am not sure what he's doing with this wave. I don't know what the idea is. Because he's not denying more minions by slow pushing it. The only thing he's doing is he's making it so that now the 5th wave will meet here. Which is once again worse for him because he has a hard time trading for extended exchanges. So like, he's just continuing to put himself in shitty positions. Oh, and here he did it again. Look, look! He can follow up with W, he's in range, but he auto-attacks instead. It's a rage bait. It's a rage bait gameplay. That's what it is. It's rage bait. Oh my gosh, now I remember this VOD. It's even worse than I thought. I thought this wave would late crash, so now the 5th wave would be here. But no, this is a half crash. He half crashed the 4th wave, meaning that the ranges are outside of the range of the turret. And the cannon, in this case, but also applies to melees, die to the turret. Because of that, Orianna doesn't have to do anything on this 4th wave. She can literally just chill. Doesn't have to do anything. And Ryze is even more making himself retarded and unable to take exchanges. Nemesis should be looking to QW through the wave because he has no better uses of his abilities and he's totally safe. But that's like a rare situation where you can actually do that. So I don't blame him for not trying. And on the other hand, Ryze cannot do anything. That's why I'm not like talking much about his movement or anything. Like no matter what he does, he cannot do anything here. Nothing, because the wave is so shit. And now he's left with 150 mana. He should be resetting on this. That's what he should be doing. But he overstays. And now what Nemesis should think is that, wait, this guy has 150 mana. It's not even close enough to burn through this guy's 700 HP. Not even close enough to that. Nemesis can play for an advantage in this laning phase before the first reset, which is crazy. It's wild to play for an advantage as Orianna into Ryze. It's unthinkable. But then Nemesis doesn't actually abuse this. This guy has no mana. No mana. What Nemesis should be doing now is just trading. Should walk up, QW and trade. Force this guy to EQ back, to W back, to another Q back. And you don't care. Even if you burn this much of your HP, even if he burns 400 of your HP, and you burn only this much, it's still fine because this guy will be out of mana. All you want to do in this case is burn him out of mana so he cannot hard push the wave. And so that maybe he gets a shittier reset than he normally would have. That's all you need to do as Orianna in this case. But he refuses to click forward. He refuses to do it. He sees Ryze with no mana. Even here, this guy has no mana left. You can click forward and trade, and deny him at least these 2 melee minions. But he refuses still to do it. There is no threat on the map. No threat. Zero. And this concludes the VOD. This concludes the VOD. Ryze will reset. Orianna won't cancel him. If you wanted to try cancelling him, you can try walking up here and then queuing like that. But I would have to see his movement again. By that you can usually figure out where he's gonna be resetting. He was clicking like that, so he's probably under turret. So yeah, anyways, this concludes the VOD. You can try cancelling his reset, but it doesn't matter, because all of the previous shit that happened in this laning phase, mainly from Vetheo, but also as you can see, Nemesis just refused to win the laning phase at this point. All of the previous shit is already enough. This VOD wasn't high quality. Once again, this is an ERO level game. It's very rare that you see an ERO player actually like do well when it comes to the laning phase portion of the game, especially when it comes to playing for advantage. The only 2 players that I've seen from EROs that can consistently or semi-consistently play for an advantage in laning phase that require it are Slow Q and Chocolat. Everyone else is just not so good at it, which is a problem. It is definitely a problem. So yeah, that'll be it. I've enjoyed this VOD as always, and yeah, bye bye.